Здравствуйте все.
Hello, dear friends, dear participants. We are happy to welcome you, all of you who got enough energy, willpower to connect to our seminar. And we continue to study the Secret Doctrine by Ilana Blavatsky. We are happy to welcome everyone, and we are grateful for you to participate. Since today we have the thoughts, we have to understand that everything depends on our intention, our concentration of thoughts that got put together inside of us. There is a very important striking thought today that our morning thought, as a magnet, acts, and it is as powerful as we are concentrated on our inner state or our inner thought. And this feeling of concentration on our inner thought uh, gives a certain uh, touch to the material that we are going to study, because it is a tremendous amount of work, tremendous concentration, and this ability which may get bigger in every consciousness. At the same time, it will enhance your comprehension. But when you do not have the concentration, you lose this clarity, and your consciousness goes back to Maya, the weaved tissue made of doubts, fears, and prejudice. And every time before the seminar, when we say that it is very important to implement the systemic approach, and today exactly these words came to our mind that the secret doctrine was given to us from the White Brotherhood through Yelena Petrovna Blavatsky. It was given to us as a concentration or focus on the future development of the human consciousness or evolution. It is a new uh, loop of the spiral, a new wave which brings new combinations of energies, which provides us with new combinations for insight, for development and expansion of the consciousness. It gives these characteristics to the nature of soul, of mind, of everything that makes this comprehension and understanding possible. And in the books, the teachers ask, secret doctrine was given from the White Brotherhood of Teachers through Elena Petrovna Blavatsky, but who took the endeavor to learn it systemically? Everybody preferred a light interpretation, clear interpretation. But the thought is that systemic approach to the study of the secret doctrine of Agni Yoga, this soul of that very foundation that was provided through the secret doctrine as a higher knowledge, it is the understanding depends on our concentration on the inner thought and being loyal to it without distraction. The system of concentration reveals the clarity of understanding because you are inside and you put your own thought inside according to the thoughts that we are going to learn study today, that are going to be revealed today. And today there will be many new thoughts because we have the presenters, lecturers who will share their own individual work, individual insight. And this is extremely important to reveal the individual result of work. We need the clarity of understanding. And we wish to all of you that you have this clarity of understanding, that there will be no division, no disruption of this thought, and that every revelation, every insight, and every understanding will integrate the combination of space in harmony, where everything can find its true place in our common work, common endeavor, when we are creating this um, image, this thought. this understanding that will be clear for every individual and for the group as a whole that work together. We wish you stay, remain in these energies and have enough power, concentration, and admiration when you touch this knowledge, follow this vibe, and be inside this thought. And today we work with our interpreters, Ksenia Persova and Olga Tomchuk. We thank our interpreters for being with us during all the seminar and that you help us to convey these thoughts, and that you help to expand the understanding and deepen the understanding of such important works as The Secret Doctrine by Elena Petrovna Blavatsky and Agni Yoga. Of course, we are going to talk about it, and Kalachakra that has a very important nature of the consciousness, which is acts according to the great law, and this action will be the foundation of our seminar today, because the start of the third stanza for Sloka brings us to it, brings us to this important moment, this great esoteric moment that, of course, will touch the whole secret doctrine and its understanding, and that will bring all the parts into the unique puzzle of the equilibrium, balance, and correlation of thought and sound and color, all this volume of the expanded consciousness, which starts by its vibration, touch other energies, and in combination with them, convey a particular individual color. And this important idea of forming your own image made of picture and thought is very important, and it should be beautiful, it should be harmonious, and then our common space will also radiate these kind of energies. Good luck to all of you and fruitful work. We hope that it will be interesting. We'll have revelations, thoughts, and insights, and we'll try to follow them up till the end. And now I give the floor to psychologist, head of the Moscow School of Theosophy, Vladimir Yaro, Moscow, Russia.
Thank you. And let's start with the thought of the day by Helena Petrovna Blavatsky, the pearl of the day. And the thought is the following: lead me from the unreal to the real. Lead me from darkness to light. Lead me from death to immortality. This is the thought of the day. And this thought enables us to understand that there is someone who follows and there is someone who shows the way. And in this case, it refers to the hierarchy beginning, the beginning of the human soul. And this hierarchy is based on the great knowledge of the wheel of time, gives us the particular combination of nidanas, as well as the spiritual essences of the highest gods that are embodiment of the epoch of the Aquarius, which is manifested by the blue monkey. The blue monkey in itself is like an element. It's the element of the blue color, and it tells us about the thinker or the thinking ability. The thinker is able to focus its thoughts on the mountainous world. In other words, choose the upper path. And the thought should always be high above. What does it mean? This thought should be impersonal. It should be of altruistic nature. In this thought, you shouldn't condemn other people. And this thought brings peace and mutual understanding, friendliness and cooperation. All those thoughts of course, change our astral bodies. And they give the impetus, and they depend on our wishes and desires. It means that our wishes should be of higher nature, and the thought that is attracted is the higher thought. And that enables us to, first of all, change the vibration, our vibration in the astral body. These vibrations bring us transmutation, the transmutation or the transformation processes. And that's how the step-by-step, slow expansion of our thoughts begin. But when we answer this call, our consciousness becomes awake, and it becomes awake with the help of our pure wishes and thoughts and other pure characteristics and qualities. The monkey itself, as a nidana, symbolizes beauty, harmony. And we can say that we bring ourselves to the state of harmony. We try to find the balance. We find the balance with the cosmic laws, the laws of nature, with the higher justice. And that's how we are in line with the cosmic magnet, or the hierarchy of those higher teachers that lead the humanity, answering or being in line with the thought of the day. As for the age, it's the age of the white dragon. The white color symbolizes ether, this element. The dragon is the first in the couple of nidanas. There's also a snake and a tiger. It's the male beginning. It's under the Saturn beginning. It has the blue, or rather the green color, which symbolizes the synthetic nature. The dragon is wisdom. Its thinking ability is the creation of thoughts and forms of thoughts, and it's possible only with wisdom, with experience that was accumulated in the life and the existence, and that is the source of wisdom. Each human being has the opportunity to use this age of wisdom, the age of the white dragon, to condensate within themselves everything, to be in line with the spatial fire, to be in line with higher thoughts and feelings. We can feel this higher justice, and by doing so, we can live wisely. As for the year, it's the year of the black hare. The black hare is black. Why? The first principle is the tiger. It was of the male nature. It was last year. This is the nature of the previous year, of the Nidana. And hare is of female nature, female character. The female nature means the possibility to give forms, and this ability to give forms requires the learning ability. The black color symbolizes akasha element, or waters. But those waters are nothing else but the deep waters. The deep waters give the impetus that can be seen in the form of this of striving towards higher vibration. It's like a cametone, which we can tune so that it would be in line with the nature of our consciousness that has the ability to learn more, learn new things. And we don't get fixated on what we have already learned, because it should die, or rather go into the past once we've learned something, so that we would always be on the path of striving to learn something new, so that we wouldn't be in this fixated state. This year is a significant one for the society and also for the consciousness. It predetermines who is focusing on the past. Those people are behind the evolution processes. They are not in the flow. But those who are not in the past, those who are striving to create the future that they want, that they imagine right now, in the now, this is the most important, to have this strivation into the future and to create future and create it beautifully. Only then this future will come to life. This is the nature of the black hare. As for the month, it's the blue tiger. The blue color symbolizes the nature of the tiger Nidana. The thinking ability to think is being created. The blue tiger is under the ray of the Venus, and Venus symbolizes, first of all, the individual beginning and the birth of the thinker in their individual ability to perceive the reality and to form or to give shape to the ideas so that they would be turned into thoughts. That is what the blue tiger is about. The week is the week of the red hare. The red hare is the symbol of the fiery nature. It's the fiery character. Hare is the symbol of knowledge, or the knowledge of the spirit that should also be present here. During the whole week, we should be in line with the spirit of the learning ability, of our own spirit. And that is very important. And we should all know that. And as for the day, it's the day of the blue horse. And this tells us that it is one of the Shakti. The Shakti is Ichhaya Shakti. It's the strong will that influences our muscles. In other words, this is the esoteric force, and it influences primarily the strength of the muscles of our thinker. And this influence of the thinker that is able to shape the thoughts. This horse is under the rays of Saturn, by the way, and these are forms and thoughts. It is the ability to give shape to thoughts, to form the thoughts. This is the combination of Nidanas and all the Nidanas that I've just enumerated, together with the blue monkey that represents the epoch. Altogether, they are part of the Shakti, of this horse, because horse is the carrier of the strong will. Each of us has the strong will, and the strong will should be brought up. It should be built on the basis of the justice, of the laws of justice, because horse is also justice. It means that we need to know the laws of nature, the cosmic laws, and we should manifest them through the human nature. We use the 7-ray star that is the symbol of the cosmic, of the cosmos, and the 6-ray star, which is the nature, and the pentagram symbolizes the human nature. And the combination of these 3 symbols unites 3 worlds by the 4th one. And the 3rd stanza, Sloka 4, that is now being discussed. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Well, indeed, when you know which Nidana corresponds to every day, to today, we can be ready to these muscles of the thought, these thought form that are going to be created today. And we congratulate you with this kind of day, this kind of energies, and good luck to you. And we are so impatient to hear how this thought will be formed. And now we are ready to welcome our dear friend, dear partner from the USA, Michelina Foster, the member of the Theosophical Society of the United States of America. Michelina, you are welcome. We are waiting for you and patiently, and thank you for joining us today.
Good morning. The three fall into the four. The radiant essence becomes 7 inside, 7 outside. The luminous egg, which is in itself, is 3. The triple hypothesis of Brahma or Vishnu. The 3 avastas. Curdles and spreads into the milk white curds throughout the depths of mother, the root that grows in the ocean of life. As we delve deeper into the book of Daisen, we find 2 kinds of numerals to be studied. One is referred to as the figures, which more often than not are simple blinds. The other is called the sacred numbers. These sacred numbers are references to the values known to occultists who have passed through initiation. The figures are conventional glyphs. The word glyph was originally derived from the French word for carvings. The early languages were originally carved in stone for the populace. The sacred numbers are the basic symbols of all. To begin to comprehend sacred numbers, one stands within the opposite pole of physical, which is the metaphysical. This position is in extreme divergence from the pole in substance, matter, and spirit. Where the mind is concerned, there are always 2 factors involved, at least. Things cannot be evaluated without being weighed, in contradistinction to something else. As humans, we compare everything. This I like, this I don't like. This is round and this has sharp edges. This is larger than that. This object is heavier than that object. Here I am, but the grass is always greener on the other side of the fence, we think. We compare, we evaluate, we discriminate. In most cases, the result of the final judgment is an item, a thing, an idea, a person, a wealth factor, property, or some other object based upon our past experiences. And sometimes, more importantly, it is proportionately to the direct advantage of the one who is making the choice. The information given in these wonderful commentaries is truly of a very general nature, and it has been noted by HPB that these commentaries are specifically keyed to symbolic information in reference to the unfoldment of our planetary solar system and this region of the galaxy in which we are aware. Infinity does not think in our human concepts. It is as though, as humans, we gather pieces of cloth from all different garments and rugs and blankets. We patch them together to form beauty, yes, hopefully. We create a patchwork quilt of ideas and concepts, reformed from past ideas, theories, and assumptions. Infinity, on the other hand, weaves the entire blanket of its mind upon loom of time and light, of love and joy, of proportion and consciousness. It is one perfect blanket without seams or gaps. To us, it is a portion of the waters of space, the garment of the Great Mother. For we seek her face from our place within the folds of her robe. Here we are in the radiant lap of Maya. Manifestation on the many planes begins. The 3 aspects containing will and love wisdom find their basis in manifestation. The triangle of 3, then, is said to fall into the 4, as into the square, the cube, or the cross, to become the radiant essence of the 7 within the 7 without. HPB explains that the reference to the radiant 7 within and the 7 without is actually referring to the specific, quote, the specific properties for occult purposes of the 14 precious things here, unquote. But these proportions of the explanation is only available to those candidates who have taken the 4th initiation. HPB states that it is idle to speak of laws arising when deity prepares to create, for A, laws, or rather law, is eternal and uncreated, and B, that deity is law, and vice versa. She continues concerning the one eternal law, that it unfolds everything in the to be manifested nature of the sevenfold principle. We can ponder her words, but until we learn to step beyond our 3-dimensional linear world of thought, her words will be lost in the lap of Maya. The radiant 7 shimmer on both sides of our creative imagination. The inner world, unseen by our physical eyes, and but dimly visible in our outer world of living experience. It is from the aspects and world of living and attributes of these radiant 7, which we draw the entirety of our manifested existence. That which we know, that on which and for which we live, that which we observe and dream, are as fragrances flowing from the flower of this radiant 7. This commentary speaks of the luminous egg. Madame Blavatsky states that, quote, one has to learn the reason of a symbol, unquote. She goes on to the dissertation on the mundane egg, which includes the following ideas. Hence, this universal symbol. This egg was incorporated as a sacred sign in the cosmogony of every people of Earth and accepted because of its form and inner mystery. Looking back in time, the first cause had no name or beginning. Later, it was pictured in the fancy of the thinkers as an ever invisible, mysterious bird that dropped an egg into the chaos, which egg became the universe. Hence, Brahma was called Kalachakra, or the swan in space and time. Thus he became the swan of eternity, who lays at the beginning of each manvantara a golden or luminous egg. Ra of the Egyptian rituals is shown like Brahma, gestating from the egg of the universe. The Greeks had their Orphic egg, described by Astrophanes. It is said that Vishnu Purana, intellect, Maha, the unmanifested gross elements and inclusive, formed an egg, and the Lord of the universe himself abided in it, in the character of Brahma. The second reason for the symbolic representation of the egg of the universe and of our earth was its form. It was a circle and a sphere. In view of this circular form, the eye, or the line, issuing from the O of the egg depicts the male and the female in the androgyny. These form the number 10, being the sacred number of the universe. Max Molnar stated that the two words cipher and 0 which are but one, are sufficient to prove that our figures are borrowed from the Arabs. Unquote. The word cipher means empty, and a translation of the Sanskrit name of naught, Saina. Moving on into this stanza, the mention of the luminous egg, which in itself is three. The hypostasis of Brahma or Vishnu, and the three, the triple, the avastas, leave us with an interesting point for pondering. A subsequent meaning for the word hypostasis is an underlying reality or substance, as opposed to attributes or to that which lacks substance. I truly believe that in this concept can be found an entirely new depth for this commentary. We have the triangle, the one, the quaternary, the 7, the 14, the circle, and the one root. Study and see. The milk-white curds seem to point out to the Milky Way, which surrounds our tiny point of observation and our planetary situation. HPB reminds us, however, not to get too smug with our intellectual attitude. She states that this simple presentation contains a whole pantheon of mysterious objects, symbols, and glyphs, unquote. We find here the adoration of the cow and the bull, both productive and generative. This churning relates to a period before the formation of the Earth and our solar system. It is here in this churning of densities, of substance in space, the very body of the mother, that we find the one root that flowers periodically in the vast oceans of life. As humanity, we hold a very minuscule view of life, the entity of life, as it flows in the body of the Great Mother. We truly have no idea what life really is. The mind of man can in no way encapsulate these qualities of infinity, except in a very coarse and mundane attitude. All have their limitations. But once a concept is constructed, it can be enhanced, expanded, and examined. Thus, we have the teaching and the instruction found in this commentary. Namaskar.
Dear Michelina, thank you so much for your insight and presentation. Today, I understood from your presentation that the reason of symbolism. You were talking about the symbol of the mundane egg, since it is a very important notion in the context of the whole sloka. It means that we have to understand this causality, this reason. And this idea is so fundamental, and you made it so clear, and it leads us to our own thoughts and to better understanding. Thank you very much for this opportunity that you provided us with. And I thought, Mr. Foster is a metaphysical doctor, yet our next presenter is a doctor of physics and mathematics. And now we'll see how metaphysics and physics get together, what kind of ideas, what kind of thoughts, and it will be just wonderful if they will tune together, leading us to new insights, new thoughts that link this Sloka in this eternity as physics and metaphysics. It's a great synthesis, and I'm happy to give the floor to the head of the International Research Center, Elena Petrovna Blavatsky is by name, professor, the Doctor of Physics and Mathematics, Rashupkin Sergei Pavlovich. It's a polytechnical university. Peter the Great by name, St. Petersburg. Sergei Pavlovich, thank you very much. We're happy that you're here with us today and that you lead this tremendous work, this research work, and at your seminars that you animate. We receive a lot of comments and uh, greetings and thanks. And now I would like to use this opportunity to thank you for your research. Thank you very much, and the floor is yours.
Good afternoon, dear friends. Can you hear me? Today, I'd like to discuss with you Stanza 3, Sloka 4, from the standpoint of contemporary achievements of physics. This stanza and Sloka 4 tell us that the principle of the egg as the principle of the creation of the space, of the universe, is of universal nature. And today, I'd like to make my speech as the confirmation of the contemporary understandings of the shloka, of the stanza. The discoveries of the 20th century led to the creation of quantum electrodynamics, and quantum field theory led to the discovery of one of the main concepts of the modern theory of interaction of elementary particles, the concept of virtual particles. And here we can see the clouds of virtual particles. The structure that we can see that is offered, this is the model of elementary particles that was created by the theoretical physics, tell us that the virtual particles themselves are not visible in our physical world. They cannot be registered by any devices, but all the qualities of those particles are predetermined by those elementary particles. So it is the confirmation that there are thin worlds, thinner formations, and they have influence on our world. And this is what we are witnessing right now. On the right, you can see the picture. On the left, we can see the model. But on the right, we can see the confirmation of the truth of this model. In January 2023, we've received the news in the US, the Brockhammel laboratory worked on the heavy cores of particles, and based on the research, the map of the nucleus was created. It is it consists of the quarks. Quarks and gluons are the virtual particles. They're not visible in our physical universe. But if we look at this map, we can see that there is the center that is surrounded by the particles of the virtual particles. This is the confirmation of the theoretical model that was created in the beginning of or rather in the mid-20th century. That is why the elementary particle represents the singularity. It's the so-called naked particle that is surrounded by the virtual particles. Thanks to those understandings and theories and concepts that all the electromagnetic weak and strong processes are possible thanks to various particles, such as those that cannot be detected by the devices. Those are gluons, quarks, the magnetic charges, and many others. There are multiple of them. And the physical vacuum is now imagined as the combination of all the possible virtual particles. What does it mean? The Theosophic scheme is confirmed. The hierarchic structure of the worlds is confirmed here. The physicists say that the physical vacuum is exactly the system of the thin worlds, which have all the types of the virtual systems, and the interaction of those worlds are predetermined by the virtual particles or by thinner planes. This is the confirmation of the basic principles of Theosophy. The next slide, please. Also, I wanted to draw your attention to a very interesting fact, the quantum entanglement. It is a hot topic for the essays and writings. What is this process? This phenomenon was first discovered in quantum mechanics, and it is related to the fact that the system that consists of several quantum objects, even if those objects can be very far away from each other, when you measure the spin of one object, another object also feels this measurement and gets into the same state. And this engagement interaction between those objects was criticized by Albert Einstein. He said it was impossible, and he was right, but he was right saying that those phenomena cannot be seen on the physical plane, but if those particles are virtual, then this interaction is possible. And the quantum entanglement is explained by this interaction between the virtual particles. This is the interaction in the micro worlds. There have been experiments, trials that confirmed the truth of this concept, and Alan Asper, John Clausen, and Anton Zeilingen were awarded the Nobel Prize for the confirmation of this theory. But there is still some kind of misunderstanding of this complicated phenomenon. Also, I wanted to draw your attention to another fact. According to the contemporary physics, the elementary particles are an egg, a layer center surrounded by the clouds. The natural molecules have this particular structure, as well as the substance and other particles. And Castaneda tells us the knowledge of Aztecs, of our ancestors, and he says that human beings are like this egg, this luminous egg. And here we can see a very luminous point. Within this luminous egg, there are luminous flows of energy. They're lines, and they reflect the multifaceted nature of the world. And this assembly point functions as a radio. It is the resonance of the internal frequencies and the outer frequencies. This is a very interesting description that tells us about the structure of the energetic luminous egg. Also, I must highlight that the same structure is the structure of the planet Earth. A Russian writer, Danil Leonidovich Andreev, son of another writer, Andreev, he was a mysticist. He used to be in a special state of consciousness that enabled him to travel around the structures of the worlds of our planet. And he would say that each object in the universe has a multi-layer structure. or Brahmaturas. Brahmatura of the earth has its own name, Shadanahar, and Brahmatura of the earth consists of 242 worlds. Those worlds have different measurements of the distance from 1 to 6. As for time, it's from 0 to 236. So these are completely different structures. And those worlds are very different. Our own astronomical universe is Enroth, according to this writer. There are also higher layers of Shadanahara that are under the planetary logos of the Earth, but also there are lower layers of Shadanahara, which are the demonic or the dark worlds. And this fight between the light and the dark forces is manifested in the constant processes that are taking place in our civilizations, the change of the races and so on. And his book, The Rose of the World, is unique. It's really interesting. He describes our layer, the Holy Russia, and we can see the descriptions of Serafim Sarovsky, Sergei Radonjirsky lives, but also Pushkin, Lermontov, and other thinkers. It's an interesting book, and I recommend those who haven't read it to familiarize yourself with it. But I'd like to highlight that here we can see the same structure of the world, which is the egg. The sun, according to Andreev, there are thousands of layers in Brahmatura. As for the solar system, those are mega Brahmaturas. He doesn't even mention the number of layers. It means that during the course of the development of the universe on the physical plane, we have accumulated a great amount of layers, millions of billions of layers in our solar system. Based on what I've said previously, I can say that there is a common law in the structure and in the interactions within the nature, and this law can be confirmed by the contemporary physics. The foundation of all is the world egg. The differentiation of this egg can be observed anywhere. Also, it's important to notice that physicists are often criticized because people say that physics is a dead science. The particles do not have a consciousness, although we would want particles to have consciousness. But I'd like to draw a number of parallels between the virtual particles on the one hand and elementals on the other hand. Blavatsky says that the world spirits or the cosmic forces of nature, elementals, have no form. They are the centers of power. They have instinctive desires, but they do not have consciousness as we understand it. And I'd like to point your attention to that. Elementals indeed don't have the form of the egg. In this sense, they don't have the consciousness as we understand it. They don't have the eternal spirit, the material body. They have only the astral body. It functions in the element that it exists in. And I'm not going to continue talking about the elements. Elementals, you know about them. There are elementals of water, of fire, and so on. In theoretical physics, the unobservable particles determine the forces of interaction in the nature, and those forces can be explained. So there is some parallel here. And I wanted also to tell you the general properties of virtual particles and elementals. The first one is the unobservability by physical devices. The second one, they are carriers of forces manifested on the physical plane. The third one is that they reflect the non-linearity of the forces of nature. And the fourth one, they are entities on more subtle planes. So we can say that these elements can describe the living nature on the thin layer. In other words, we're getting closer to the description of the live nature. And the final point I'd like to make today and share with you today, and here I'm going to use the works of Castaneda. These are the ancient knowledge of Toltecas, all the organic creatures have this egg shape, the egg form, and there is one layer that is in line with the organic creatures. All of them have the shape of the egg. But there are 7 layers that are in line with the non-organic creatures, and those creatures do not have any form. They have the form of the very dim dim thread. But those are the luminous creatures. This is what exists when the universe is developing. But also we have a huge field that cannot be studied yet. This is the field that cannot be studied, the region of the unknowable. These are the dark creatures. The universe has 2 phases, Mahamanvantara and Mahapralaya. Mahamanvantara is responsible for the creation of multiple amount of the luminous beings of various forms. It develops, it reaches its peak, and then the universe gets back to the Pralaya state. In the Pralaya state, the dark beings are created, and we don't know anything about them. In Mahapralaya, they also have the period of the development of the peak and so on. And those phases cannot exist without each other. And we support this balance. And when the universe goes through Mahamanvantara phases and Mahapralaya phases, will be eternal. Hence, this correlation. So this is the hypothesis that I wanted to voice out today. Thank you for your attention. Sergey, thank you so much. Thank you for your research, for confirming the Theosophic doctrine. Thank you for delving into the postulate, into the notions of the secret doctrine. And it really inspires us because, of course, the major concept that is widely spread today, and people work a lot on this concept, is related to all spheres of the world. We need to confirm that the knowledge that were given by Madame Blavatsky in The Secret Doctrine are relevant, that they need to be studied, that they need to be understood, and that those confirmations that you always give to us during the seminars give us the confidence that we have finally reached the time when it has become possible. Thank you so much for that. And you have received a number of questions, so please stay here in the seminar because the participants are forwarding questions to us. Thank you for being active in the chat. Thank you for asking questions to the scientific and research group, to our speakers. And at the end of the seminar, of course, we'll give everyone time to speak up and to answer the questions of the participants. So we go on. we have prepared the presentation.
So we've prepared a presentation for you. We tried to remain within the framework of the material provided by Elena Petrovna Blavatsky in The Secret Doctrine within the Stanza, and we tried to analyze its components and all the sacred notions that were given in the several sentences. We tried to find the cause, the consequence, the similarity, and try to join the previous stanzas and the third stanza and these three slokas and the fourth sloka so that this picture, the big picture of the world could be clear what sloka corresponds to which period. And maybe we could have a new perspective on it, have a new feeling, new sensation of the thought about the expanded comments that we are learning, that we are studying. And of course, everybody knows what Yelena Petrovna Blavatsky told about because also many students asked her questions and we got confirmation or explanation of certain notions. Let us continue with the presentation. Third stanza or Sloka, the secret doctrine. So then the three fall into the four. The radiant essence becomes seven inside, seven outside. The luminous egg, which in itself is three, curdles and spreads in milk-white curds throughout the depths of mother, the roots that grows in the depth of the ocean of life. So the three fall into four, or the triangle falls into the quaternary. It falls, and in this falling is the union and conservation, the trust and belief. There is a teacher, a disciple, or a spati at the feet of the teacher. And in this letter corresponds to every first word in Russian, u, and it corresponds to the first word and the verb to fall. It's very interesting what this radiant essence means. This radiant essence is the essence which is able not only to emit array, but also carry its essence in all subsequent manifestations, differentiations, correlations, and transformations. The nature of essence is reflected and symbolized by the number three. It becomes sevenfold when radiance transforms into radiation. When the nature is filled with radiance or light to the limit, the form becomes necessary, or transformation of its radiance into another state in, in order to carry this light further. And this action is falling of 3 into 4. What does it give us? It gives 7 within and 7 without. According to the scheme of the planes of existence, we may define the first 7 the unmanifested plane, and seven shining star of manifested. The shining egg threefold in itself. As soon as it becomes threefold, it becomes shiny or Hiranyagarbha or the womb or the golden germ that is like radiant mist out of which the universe was created, the ethereal matter. What is it? It is the mind, Hiranyakapa, or the golden germ, as Yelena Petrovna told about it, as it was floating in cosmic waters and gave birth to life. This golden germ, which has the property of floating in cosmic waters, is the beginning of life. And when the term comes, it goes into action. Let us have a look another time the correspondence of this notion of Hiranyagarbha. The golden womb of the egg contains Brahma. Imagine at which extent this notion is important. Hiranyagarbha contains also Brahma. What is Brahma? It's the collective symbol of the seven universal forces. As the auric egg contains both the divine and the physical human and is directly related to them. In its essence, as it is said, it is eternal and its perpetual correlations. It is something like a perpetuum mobile during the progressive reincarnations of the ego on this earth. This thought is very important. When at every point of the space, this floating germ may give the beginning of life to several solar systems, several planets, several globes, human consciousness, different evolutions, etc. Practically up to eternity. And this threefold, which provides this eternal correlation of new combinations of color, of sound, is something that defines ego. Ego is always threefold. These are principles fifth, sixth, and seventh. Atma, Buddhi, Manas. Uh, Hiranyagarbha is an invisible magnetic sphere that enwraps every person. It is an emanation of the aspects. It is interesting to consider these three aspects of the threefold. One of them is the creator, the next is the guardian, and the third is the destroyer or regenerator. According to the planes of existence, this is the threefold aspect of the ray is manifested this way or reflected this way. And this anatomical net or plane or the sphere gives that kind of shape when we can physically sense, physically think, physically feel any higher aspect of the higher force. The key point is that the radiant nature is an ethereal substance, a spark of the mind. It is accumulating to manifest the first ray from the atom. The atom is the Atman of the lower Prakriti. The lower Prakriti, we know where it is, and in this lower Prakriti, there is a higher point, and this is Atman. The atomic ray is sevenfold and one. It encloses seven without and seven within itself. Three falls into four, or the triangle falls into a quadrilateral. In the depths of the mother, she is this root, growing in the bowels of the ocean of life. Now we are the plane of the prototype, so we know we are. What happens at this very moment? The sevenfold nature creates seven within and seven without. Etheric substance, a radiant, fiery haze. And now we can talk about the appearance of the 14 jewels or the golden egg. How do they get together? Seven within and seven without of the heart uh, of this egg. Seven inside and seven outside egg, the egg. 14 jewels. This is the geometry that the radiant fiery haze contains within itself as geometrical figures. Seven within and seven without, from which everything started. 14, the sum of 14 is 5, or the symbol of manas, or the mind, preserved in the golden egg. 7 inside, or the solar inside. 7 outside, the lunar outside. The form of the mind is the seven ray star. The key point, the mind stored in the egg is an occult go. And this is one of the main points which today in the fourth sloka will manifest under different aspects. The shape of occult goals is explained at the fourth initiation. Let us have a look at this shape. So, the 3 into 4, or into the form of the fourth initiation. It is the crucifixion or the symbol of the cross. The disciple renounces on all three planes and therefore is crucified on each of them. You may see it as a monastic plan and a prototype plan. What does it mean? It means the end of the life from the cosmic perspective, or the personal life of the soul in the multitude of incarnation. The mental nature, even at the level of the higher mind or abstract thinking, loses control over the initiate and is henceforth used only for service. It is replaced by intuition, pure mind, perfect knowledge, illuminated by the purpose of the divine mind, filled with love, and the initiated from this point of life l- leads in the light of true or direct knowledge expressed by wisdom in all matters. The purpose of the divine mind is the execution, the manifestation of love and wisdom in all endeavors, in all deeds. Hence, the knowledge becomes direct, not a reflection of anything. It is a direct knowledge. It is light, clarity, etc. And so, in this a very precise phrase of Elena Petrovna, the direct knowledge confirms this action 3 into 4. So, the present, then the three worlds or incarnated existence constitute a single set of experiences in the life of a soul, experience that ends with the crucifixion, because the incarnate soul firmly, consciously, with the help of the immortal will, renounces everything and turns away from the material world once and for all. What does it mean? It means that the student has mastered everything that the three worlds of experiment, experience, and expression could give him. And now this disciple is free. Let us have a look at the key point. Elena Petrovna tells about the three grades of the astral light, or three stages of astral light, three worlds of experiment. Let us consider them this way. The ether is the seventh principle of astral light, and it is 3 degrees above radiant matter. But what does it mean that it is 3 degrees above the radiant matter? Let us have a look here according to the planes of existence. We have Akasha, ether as a property of Akasha, and astral light. So we came to the 3 steps above radiant matter, where there is atom, which is the seventh principle of the molecule, and it is another wonderful revelation by Elena Petrovna Blavatsky. And according to the planes of existence, we may understand the formation, the creation of the molecule, the principle, and how the atom is the seventh principle of the molecule, and how it acts. And we can understand how it all occurs. Seven inside and seven outside. Seven principles on the manifested planes and seven principles on the unmanifested plane. Seven inside and seven outside are put together in the fourth principle. Of course, it is the golden way, the middle way, the prototype plan, where the nirvana happens and from where the Phohetic mind starts to unfold, where the first manifestation of logos starts. In the fourth initiation, the construction of the Antakarana starts. The bridge connecting the personality, the soul, and the monad is completed. After the construction of the Antakarana is completed, the causal body burns up and the soul merges with the monad. The soul is on its own plane of existence. Elaine Petrovna said that Balzac, who was unconscious occultist, wrote an absolutely esoteric understanding numbers. is the same for both the mind and matter as an incomprehensible intermediary. And all this touches and finds its connections with the secret doctrines. Here, the number, as the great writer thought, is the essence of breathing, something that is deity, the divine thought base, something that leads to the form and the notions of number and consequence define the essence of this. So the slokas three fall into four. The smallest, as well as the greatest creatures, should not differ among themselves in their quantities, their qualities, their dimensions, their powers and attributes, being all the products of the number. And we may see in the planes of existence how it happens. The infinity of numbers is a fact proven to our mind, but a physical proof of which cannot be provided. A mathematician will tell us that infinity of numbers exists, but it cannot be revealed. God is a number endowed with movement, which is felt, but it is invincible. As a unit, it starts numbers, but has nothing to do with them. The existence of number depends on the unit which generates them all without a single number. Numbers are reasonable entities, and often in the nine we have 10, 10 which may be presented as the first full sphere of form, spiritual, of any other, becomes a form or the first field sphere. Then there will be second, third, fifth, etc., till eternity. Every next number or feeling of the spirit will grow in itself. That's why Pythagoras wrote that the cosmos was not created either through a number or by a number, but geometrically, which means following the proportions of numbers. If you follow the proportions of numbers, you may say that what is the Milky Way or the world matter? It is the radiant matter, which in its primordial matter, in this primary form, it has certain occult meaning borrowed from the Hindu allegorical churning of the ocean by the gods, and by for Amrita or the waters of life or um, immortality. Surabhi, the cow of abundance, called the fountain of milk and clothes, was extracted from the sea of milk. Hence, the universal veneration of the cow and the bull, the former as production and the latter as originating power of nature. They also related to sun and moon gods. The specific properties of the 14 jewels for occult purposes are explained only at their fourth initiation. Uh, the Sahapadha Brahma states that the churning of the ocean of milk took place in the Satya Yuga in the first century immediately following the flood. But since neither of the Rigveda nor Manu, which preceded the flood or Vaivasattva, the flood of the entire mass of the fourth race, mention this flood, it is obvious that it does mean the great flood and not the one that carried off Atlantis, nor even flood of Noah. Churning refers to the period preceding the formation of the earth and is in direct connection with another world legend, various contradictory visions of the culminated in the Christian dogma of the war in heaven and the fall of the angels. You see these published in YouTube. These are galaxies. You may see how they look like in their movement. And now we can see this churning of the ocean, this clusters about which Elena Petrovna Blavatsky wrote in the third stanza for Sloka. Now everything is confirmed by these pictures that we have now, the real pictures of how the universe works. We may say that it tells about Brahma, since the egg keeps Brahma and contains Brahma. You can see the universe, while differentiating, has created this material nature, the spiritual, rational nature. It creates Logos, which is the deity, the manifested expression of the eternal divine sword or base. The stanza 3, sloka 4. It's 3 plus 4, which is 7. But what exactly becomes the 7? Becoming 7, which means that the previous 4 slokas of the 4 stanzas. In the first stanza of the 4th sloka, we see it stated the 7 ways to bliss were not, the great causes of misery were not, for there was no one to produce and get enslaved by that. And the second stanza, it is said that your heart was not yet opened for one ray to enter, tends to fall on 3 into 4 into the lap of Maya. Hence, we may go to the conclusion. The 7 paths to bliss and the great causes of suffering take shape in the radiant nature, manifest internally and externally. 7 within, there are 7 ways to bliss, and 7 without. They are reasons of suffering. And the heart of Matri Padma has opened as the radiant egg, which is threefold in itself, collapses, spreading in milky white clots in the depths of the mother. This is why it is opening, because it is collapsing into simple. These depths was to be revealed, otherwise there would be no this white cloth, because uh, heart of mother has opened, and it becomes sevenfold because the mother has cast it like 3 into 4 into the bowels of Maya. This is how this stanza was formed, this sloka, and the key points that we have considered today. Thank you very much for your reactions and smileys, and for your following this thought and these ideas. For Thank you for defining these notions for yourself, maybe in some new way. It's quite complicated, and this is a very deep stance and comment. We have got many questions. Let us try to work online and answer these questions by the members of our scientific research group. Of course, I would like to listen to certain feedbacks by our presenters, by our participants. We have Kishori Angoli here with us, the Theosophical Society of India. Please, the floor is yours. Just a couple of minutes, your impressions and your feedback, maybe some ideas after today's lectures.
Namaste. This is a very wonderful session. It is actually, you can hear me now? The 3 becomes 4, and everything we can see it in our body, and the 14 jewels, and all the lecturers are very clear and expressed their opinions very nicely, and this is one of the best sloka, which is very important for our approach towards life, approach towards the sadhana, understanding the cosmos that is linked to our body, and the 14 jewels in our body. When you breathe properly, your vertebral column will be churned like an ocean churning. We can take the spiritual meaning of that. And the 14 jewels may we get 14 abilities, good abilities to serve the humanity. That is how this sloka can be understood, and it is one of the best and wonderful lectures. Thank you so much. Namaste.
Mr. Kishore, thank you so much for being able to join us today. And thank you so much for your comments. We're very happy that you're working in this common context in one information field with everyone. We're happy to welcome Mikhail Chilaev, the member of the Ecology and Human Safety Counselor to the Russian Academy of Natural Sciences, as well as representative of Yary community, Mr. Chirayev, Russia, St. Petersburg. We give you the floor. We haven't seen you for a long time. Thank you so much for being able to join us today, and probably have a lot to say based on what you were able to hear today, and maybe you will share briefly your discoveries. Dear friends, thank you. First of all, I'd like to congratulate you with yesterday's holiday. The 24th of March is the day of the great teacher, and it is related directly with a whole range of understandings of Agni Yoga and the Secret Doctrine and Mahatma letters and and many others. This is one union of knowledge that was sent to us by the teachers and the mother of the world on the 24th of March gives us the rays of those whom she sent to this earth. She gives us the luminous force, and the whole hierarchy of light is being created. So the spiritual program for the whole year is given to us during that holiday, and it's very symbolic that we started this meeting with the meaning of the thought. And Vladimir Yary commented on Kalachakra. He told us about it, and the substance of the thought is always the same. It's the connection between the worlds. It is the essence of the existence, and it symbolizes the invisible realities that we heard about today in the comments to the Sloka. The thought is the energy, the great energy, a really huge one. And also, I'd like to talk about Aum. Each letter, each sound of Aum, it's the foundation. It's the light, the beginning. And Evgenia talked about Aum, and indeed, it's Upadhi. It sacrifices itself, because today we talked about a sacrifice, because the crystallization of the energy of the form, if it's a sacrifice, this triangle, or we can even say the Shriyantara, the triangle consists of the black and of the white. The white triangle is the wisdom that is without form, and also it is the object of the learning, and the sacrifice appears when the substance, when the light, when the energy become the forming, the shaping beginning. Only then this 7 appears that we talked about today, and the 4, even in Mendeleev table, 4 is the center of the cross, the crossing between the halogens and metals in the active form, the acid metals. In all forms, we have this great cross that Evgenia talked about today. And I know that I have very little time for my comments, but also you talked about the flow today. The flow, however strange it may sound, it's also related to the description of Aum, of the initial universal energy. It can be characterized as fire, it's warmth, and M is the water. Indeed, it's the beginning of this burst, and this wave-like movement of elementals continued these bursts by connecting water and oxygen. These are the principles that exist in Akasha, and as a result, there was the birth of the first flow, or the water planes. M is the cosmic center of manifestation, and each time that we see a drop of water, we'll know that it was created with the help of the combustion of those gases. Water is the female principle of life, and the centers have their own characteristics and properties that are reflected in Aquarius in the letter M. So here we can see the whole depth of the psychic energies, the numerous energies that are all reflected in the mother of the world. And this is the beginning of the spiritual world, the spiritual year. And here our speakers showed us all the manifestations, and we serve for the sake of the thought of Shambhala and Mantrain. Thank you. Mikhail, thank you so much. Thank you for this whole flow, for the synthesis, for synthesizing everything, for connecting the dots and discovering the new. Thank you for commenting on the mother of the world, on the flow, on the fourth state, on the Mendeleev table. This is a very interesting observation. Indeed, when you delve into this material, indeed, you can see the whole depth of it. Thank you so much for paying so much respect and attention to all the notions that are given in this study. Also, we have a question to Micheline Foster. Michelina, we have a question. The question is, with the help of what the sages were able to feel the breath of God?
The breath of God. Breath of God, I believe, is an old axiom for the motion of the universe itself. And we study the breath of God as going out and coming in. One creates and one inhales for the manvantara, the rest, just like the humans do. In our sleep, we rest, and in our activity, we would be breathing outward. But as humans, we see everything in reverse. So it's very interesting to watch a lot of the information in the secret doctrine, because a lot of the blinds are because it seems to be reversed. We see God this way, but actually God sees us that way. Did it work?
Thank you so much. Thank you, Michelina. Do we have any additional comments? Yes, I'd like to add. Primarily, the higher spirits felt the psychic energy. That is what they needed to feel the eternal life breath. Indeed, when you said we see God this way and God sees us the other way, to me, it seemed indeed an interesting act, because God can see us as much as we can see God.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Mr. Rashupkin, we have two questions to you. If you don't mind, I'll ask them in a row. In the context of the stanza of the fourth Sloka, you talked about the depth of the mother. The question is, what is the depth of the mother?
Бесконечность.
It is the eternity. It is the eternity. And you cannot avoid it. But the eternity is gradually being implemented. But my answer is the eternity. I think some those who asked you this question wanted to know the exact limits. That's why they asked this question to you. The depth itself, when you get into the root of the matter, the depth is the root or the cause. If you get into this cause and the consequences are immeasurable, then we start talking about the karma of the planetary scale, of the universal scale, the Earth, the humanity. This is indeed a very deep topic, the cause and effect relation of this root. This is the causeless cause. Indeed, it is a very deep topic. Thank you so much. And please stay with us because we have another question to you. Can we today say that the consequence of knowing physics is the ethics of life? It's not an easy question. Unfortunately, right now, physics in its structure reflects the processes on the physical plane. They are of the mechanical nature. So as for ethics, the talk would be very short, I guess. But this disruptive move into the thin worlds, the understanding that all the physical processes can be registered and that they are born not in the physical plane, but they have the cause in the thinner worlds. And the fact that we are starting to understand it gives me the hope that in the upcoming decade we'll see a very good disruption. The science will be of ethical nature. People will understand what they can already touch upon and what is too early to touch upon. But I do hope that the physics is moving in that direction. Thank you so much. Another question. If someone has a question, if members of the scientific and research group have the question, we'll be happy to hear from you. How does the luminous essence, how is it manifested? The luminous essence is manifested by preserving in its movement this grain of spirit. It becomes luminous thanks to what's inside, thanks to the possibility to preserve and to give rays. In other words, the manifestation is this radiation. So I guess it's the short answer. If you don't mind, I'll move on to the next question. The question is to Vladimir. How does God create numbers? How does it all happen? Well, there is the non-number. The non-number gives beginning to the numbers. So this is the differentiation. The differentiation is the enumeration. This is naturally created by the radiance, and the radiance creates this geometry according to this enumeration, and everything is interconnected. I think it's related to the breath of God, the question that Michelina received. God starts the numbers by breathing, gives beginning to the numbers by breathing. The question is to Mikhail. Please listen to the question. Where does the Milky Way lead to? It limits our universe. It is like the virtual world. It is manifested in the existing forms. It leads other universes. It is not limited by the word cosmos. We can say about the whole existence, and it's related to the previous questions. Our understanding of the path of the Milky Way is that it's the foundation. It is the cloud which gives birth to everything. The spirit, or what we call fire today, it goes through the consciousness and it turns into the psychic energy. And this is the secret of the rays. The rays get the ability of creating thoughts, and humans can learn to create thoughts. It is possible when we make this thought based on the heart motives. Thank you so much. Thank you for this beautiful answer. Indeed, it's very full answer. So let's move on to the next question. What will we get in the end of the Pachtania of the ocean? What do we get in this process? Vladimir, we we get the immortality. It is the Amrita of life, and it gives us the possibility to be immortal. During the process of Pachtani, the worlds are created. The worlds are created from the ether, from the foggy matter, from this foggy fire that is everywhere in the universe. It is the source of forms. At first they curdle, then they become of thicker nature, and among this variety, all of a sudden, this whole world, the first world, is being created. And that's when this first movement of the Vahate consciousness is created. In this process, the worlds are created. And if human beings are close to this higher world, this thought is manifested. And I'd like to add here, there is the notion of being in tune with something, and it unites us with this process. It is like the voice of the silence. It is the music of the spheres. That is what takes place in this process. Each vibration is in line with its own world or worldview, with its own center within a human being. And when we reach the balance of those worlds in our hearts, this being in tune takes place. This is being in tune with other worlds. Another question. 3 falls into 4. In the third stanza, 3 falls into 4 again. What is the difference? Sergey, I give you the floor.
Here, I would like to say that going from top to lower stanzas, the feeling of the egg occurs, the feeling with the um, substance. And what used to be ephemer gets some more exact, some more defined forms and shapes, I would say this. Thank you very much. Yes, I would confirm what you've just said, and I'd just to say that 3 refers to potency, and 3 to nominality. And we may say that the 3 is a nomen or the feeling. If you're talking about the 3, 3 was in the second stanza, it was more abstract, more subtle. 3, they were getting together. And in the third stanza, it is a certain shape, and we may call what are these 3. And today we've talked about it and talked about different interpretations of what are these 3. The 3 becomes um, so we have never looked into the difference. So we thank you very much for this question, and we feel that you are the one who started the secret doctrine very thoroughly, and it is wonderful. I'd like to add to that these 3 is something that we have to cognize. This nomen, it's something for us to learn about, and through this cognition ability of the human acquires the power and strength. And follow up to this question, as I see, Miss Elena Foster, dear, please could you answer? The person who asks us would like to know the difference between the answers of our Indian partner Kishore and Gauri and how you see it. Let us start with Selena, and the question after this three and the difference between the fourfold and the quarter. May we say that these notions are the same or they're different notions? Please, the floor is yours.
The 3 drops into the 4. It's a sort of like, I would think also like a laser beam. It would take 3 different vantage points to make a 4th one. And all of a sudden it is the square. The square becomes a tangible essence because the 3 are being reflected into mother, the great mother, the substance itself. And as the 3 are reflected in, it becomes the 4. And from the 4, it spreads out, it radiates. And so it becomes the 7. And each of that, within that, it becomes the entity that is the reflection itself. So we are the reflection of the 3 dropping into the 4 of the lap of mother.
Thank you very much for your comment, dear Miss Selena. And the question to Kishore and Goli, may we put the equal sign between the fourfold and the square? How would you answer to this question?
Yeah, as Ms. Foster has told us, the 1 becomes a 3, the 3 becomes a 4. Fourfold can be set as a square. It's just a symbolic meaning. The 4 square can be fourfold. It's a symbolic meaning. But the manifestation is more important than the symbol. That's how we, and from there it becomes a sevenfold. So that is how we can take. But all is this in a circle, triangle, square. 3 most important symbols. We can interpret like that. Thank you.
Огромное спасибо.
Thank you very much for your comment. Today we will talking about it in our presentation, and geometrically we showed the difference between the quaternary and square, fourfold. They are just points of concentration. And what becomes the square are the lines or the rays which united those points and became the square or the shape. So the quaternary is the essence, and the square is the shape, the form. We cannot equalize them. We believe that they only can be similar afterwards when they get united with the action of the rays. This is our perception. Vladimir Vasilovich would like to add, yes, indeed, the quaternary as an essence, we need to find an analogy. It's also very interesting about the laserly, the essence of the fourfold can be manifested as awareness in the person, the being aware. This is an action of any of our conscious thought, and the square may symbolize our mind or brain or the shape. Self. Well, thank you very much. And the next question, we talked about swastika, and somebody asks, what does swastika mean? So what is this symbol? Let us address this question to Sergei Pavlovich Rasyubkin, and we will also add afterwards our understanding. The symbol of swastika has many different meanings and indeed very interesting. Sergei Pavlovich, please, the floor is yours. Well, I shall try. As far as I know, swastika, there are 2 swastikas. right directed and left directed, swastik of life and swastik of death. It's like a symbol that means the movement or chakra. And this movement, this kind of a symbol of the perpetual eternal movement. On the one hand, the energy of movement and life, and the other hand, the movement of disintegration and death. Thank you very much. Well, I would like to add that swastika is the symbol of the manifested life. It could be centrifugal uh, or centered energies. This is good. Everything can be assimilated to it. I would like to say that, in other words, swastika is called darje or homorized cross. The cross with the folded end. Sergei Pavlovich absolutely rightly said that there are two kinds of swastika, left-directed and right-directed, life and death. And these are two forces, two forces and two directions of the energy. Why did we put this cross on the plane of prototypes? Because it is the same as the swastika. Uh, the, uh, the this also connected to the sun, the movement according to the movement of sun and from the sun, the evolution and involution of the cosmos, centrifugal and centripetal uh, powers. This is a great symbol and can be interpreted in different ways. Well, yes, if we put it on the fourth plane, on the plane of prototypes, we made it just as potentiality. There is not more to it. We have another question, a question to our scientific research group. How Hiranyagarpa and the man's aura correspond? Vladimir Vasilovich, could you start? The connection is direct. If Hiranyagarpa, as the golden egg, also has its own bodies, or its aura, or its veils, membrane, the main correspondence, or we may say that absolutely equal state of the person's aura is this egg of the world, or Hiranyagarbha, is this idea of keeping the germ of the spirit. The germ of the spirit is intact. It is impossible to damage it. As an eternal aspect or monad, it has that impetus, that aspiration. And when it aspires to the height, it keeps these membranes. And these membranes are the aura. The Hiranyagarbha is the aura of the universe, and that intact, safe germ which is kept on all the planes of existence. Same in the aura of man. These membranes that surrounds human's consciousness depends on the thought, and the main thought is whether keeping these membranes when the germ of the spirit remain intact, protected. It has this movement, unifying all these bodies, unifying the mind of the man and the universe. It is the loss of the fear of the past. How to lose the fear of the past? We should aspire to the higher worlds, and then we can keep this very, very clear and very high thought, very pure thought. This is how they can be interconnected. Hiranyagarbha as the or the golden egg, the golden womb, and the aura of the man, which of course depends on the man's thoughts. And the next question, the last one that we'll try to answer to, and the other questions. Thank you very much for them. To all the devices, we just are running out of time, but we will try to answer all of them in our quiz and during the seminars. The question is how and by what the man is free, the man who mastered three worlds of experiment. Though this theme is close to Vladimir Vasilyevich, well, I like all themes, and one of them expresses this essence of the man's evolution and self development, the program. Well, the man is free from the illusionary perception of reality. This is what he gets free of, depending on his aspiration to self development, self improvement, self perfectioning, and of course for the common welfare. These formulas work and constitute his consciousness, the state of his consciousness. And this freedom is the freedom from the illusion of Maya, from the great teacher of the mankind. The man is free, becomes free after this mastering of the three worlds of experiment. How could it be sensed? The man who becomes free or liberated can touch any world. There are no limits. The consciousness is very light, very flexible, and it can penetrate any world. In the teaching, it is written in all worlds, no limits. And the basis of this freedom is the ability to act. When the man doesn't act, it means he is inside this Maya, which weave this tissue of the doubts and fears. Yet when the man leaves it, he becomes free to act, to touch any world. As it is said in Shambhala, the brave are welcome. It is better to act than not to act. And this bravery lets man to act and it brings new thought, new intention, new impetus, and there will be no tiredness. This new tension will be the sign of renewal or the touch of all universes, all worlds. As it is said in the teaching, all living beings are for all living beings. Today we haven't address this theme, yet those 48 cognitive abilities of Buddha are very important, which brings us to 12 nidanas, or the cause and effect notions. So we can find in all three worlds of experiment, we can touch that causeless cause, and we can create the new, and all the new will be from the new world, from the new combination, from the new um, worlds. And thus these worlds renew their own consciousness, their own thought is shared in this ocean, and it has its own world. And this world may be eternal or mortal. It can be everlasting or can come to an end. This is why to create a new world, this knowledge is given, the knowledge which require and which were given so that we practice a systemic approach in order to give the new manifestation of the individual thought. Dear friends, thank you very much for today's work together, for all the insights, for all the new ideas. Thank you for your research. The scientific research group members have such a great job, and thank you for your connection to us and to this world. Thank you for this feeling that you gave to us. Let's keep this new world for the new, for our new understanding, so that every day brings this new energy with which we could touch all the worlds. Thank you very much, dear friend. This is the thought. Thank you for being with us. Again, we thank the technical support, Alexander Brezhnev, Alexander Kuleshov, Maxim Eskorov, Yuri Butin, the girls who tried to convey these priceless ideas to the whole world, the ideas that were expressed by our participants, Ksenia Perseva and Olga Tomchenko. Thank you. And thank you for you having this ability to form by the means of language to form the notions of the subtle world, but you are working hard to do it, and we thank you for that. Dear friends, on the 6th of April, uh, all those who are in Moscow and the nearby regions could join offline meeting. And please don't forget that we are arriving to the 7th Theosophical Congress in Moscow, and we are waiting for volunteers, partners, participants, influences in the concept that is going to be dedicated to Elena Petrovna Blavatsky. The 7th International Theosophical Congress is dedicated to this great person, great name of the scientific and cultural world, who did not only gave or provided this input, new input that would transform the consciousness of the mankind for the next loop of evolution. Please stay with us and form this great thought that will be transformed from idea to form. Thank you very much. Stay tuned and be safe. Goodbye. Light and love to all of you. Let all this world be covered with love. All good to you. Let's stay in contact. Thank you again. It was wonderful to see you all. Goodbye. Thank you.